Mildred's claws dig into my thigh just enough to sting. Good. It keeps me awake. I'm holding this porcelain cup. The tea is so hot it's burning my palms. Just listen to the room. Nothing. Only the heavy purring of the cat and the finches hitting the bird feeder outside the window. 15 years of this quiet. 15 years since Harold died, leaving that leather chair over there completely empty. If you are watching this, you probably look at me, a 91-year-old widow sitting alone in a dusty house, and you feel pity. You think this is a tragedy. You think I am waiting to die. But I need to tell you this before my time runs out. Do not scroll away. The world has lied to you. They told you that silence is a disease. They are wrong. I look over at Harold's picture on the side table. It's got a thin layer of dust on the glass. I haven't wiped it off in weeks. And the world hasn't ended. We were married for 47 years. Harold was a good man, but he was a loud man, and his life was so incredibly loud. For half a century, I lived on someone else's clock. My entire rhythm was erased. Every day, the roast beef or the casserole was on the table at 5:30 p.m. sharp. The smell of it used to make my stomach turn. Why 5:30? Because Harold was hungry at 5:30. I wasn't, but I ate. Then came the weekends, the dinner parties, the neighbors, the church groups, the phone ringing off the hook. I spent decades trapped in the suffocating noise of other people's opinions. We worshiped this idea that a full house means a full heart. We worshiped the calendar. Busy, busy, busy. If you weren't busy, you were failing at life. Peggy, you're so quiet tonight. Peggy, you need to get out more. Do you know how exhausting that is? To be the one quiet person in a room full of noise? I felt so guilty. I looked at all the other wives, laughing, gossiping, filling every single silence with words. They made it look so easy. I thought I was broken. I thought there was something wrong with my wiring because all I wanted to do was be upstairs in a quiet room with a book. But to say that back then, that was a sin. So I smiled until my jaw ached. I poured the coffee. I kept score of the birthdays and sent the cards. I was an actor in a play I didn't want to be in. I wasted the best years of my life apologizing for my own nature, apologizing for wanting peace. I had everything, a husband, friends, a full house, and I was miserable. The tea in this cup has gone cold. It tastes a bit bitter now, just like the days after Harold left. It happened 15 years ago, a Tuesday. His heart just stopped. 1 minute, the house was full of his big voice, the baseball game on the television, the clatter of his shoes, and the next minute, it was just static. The silence that hit this house wasn't peaceful. It was deafening. It was heavy. For the first few weeks, the noise came back. The funeral, the casseroles, the pitying looks from the neighbors. Everyone looked at me like I was a cracked porcelain plate, just waiting to shatter. My children, bless their hearts, they were terrified. They swooped in with their modern solutions. Mom, you can't stay in this big house alone. Mom, we signed you up for grief counseling. Mom, there's a lovely bridge club on Thursdays. You need to get out. They were so scared of my solitude. They thought if I was left alone with my thoughts, I would just wither up and die of a broken heart. And for a moment, I believed them. I was 76 years old, and I was terrified of my own living room. I didn't know how to exist without a script. Who was Peggy without Harold? Who was Peggy without someone to cook for? Then came the Tuesday, a month after the funeral. The kids had finally gone back to their own lives. The house was empty. I was sitting at the kitchen table. I watched the clock on the wall, the second hand ticking, loud. 5:25, 5:29, 5:30. My stomach clenched. I looked at the stove. I looked at Harold's empty chair. I waited for the guilt. I waited for the crushing weight of loneliness to drown me. I waited to feel the need to rush out the door and find somebody, anybody, to fill the void. 6 o'clock, 6:30. I sat there in the quiet, just the hum of the refrigerator, and then a strange thing happened. My stomach growled, but it wasn't a sad, empty feeling. It was just my body, my own clock. I missed my husband. I really did, but I was not lonely. I realized, sitting at that table, that I had confused grief with loneliness. And the world couldn't tell the difference either. They wanted me to fill my life with noise to cover up the pain, but the silence wasn't the enemy. The silence was the first honest thing I had felt in 47 years. I didn't want to go to a bridge club. I didn't want to make small talk about the weather to pretend I was okay. I didn't need to be saved from being alone. I needed to be left alone. And that night, that very first night, I decided to listen to my own body. I didn't make a roast. I made scrambled eggs on a piece of burnt toast at 7:15 in the evening, and I ate it right at the kitchen counter, standing up. No placemats, no serving spoons, no conversation. It was the most delicious meal of my life, because for the first time in nearly 50 years, I was eating because I was hungry. That was the beginning. That was the shift. The moment I realized I didn't need to rebuild the life I had with Harold. I had to build the life that belonged to Peggy. It started with small things. I stopped making the bed with the 17 decorative pillows that nobody ever used. I left the curtains open at night so the morning sun would wake me up, instead of that terrible screaming alarm clock. Then I got Mildred. Look at her sleeping here, 11 years old, missing half an ear. I found her at the shelter. She was the only cat in the room not making a sound, just watching. I knew we would get along. She doesn't demand anything from me but a warm lap and a little food. She understands the sacredness of a quiet room. The hardest part, though, the real work, was the address book. I sat down one afternoon with a heavy black marker. I looked at the hundreds of names, the bridge club ladies, the dinner party couples, the acquaintances, the people I spent decades exhausting myself for. I took the cap off the marker, and I started crossing them out. Thick black lines. No more holiday cards. No more forced coffee dates. No more pretending to care about the neighborhood gossip. I was right, and I was finally alone. I kept 3. Just 3 friends. Women who know that we can sit in a garden together for 2 hours, say absolutely nothing, and leave feeling entirely loved. My children still call, they worry, they ask if I'm depressed, but they don't see what I see. They don't see my mornings. Oh, let me tell you about my mornings now. I wake up at 6:30, no rush, no one is asking me, what's for breakfast? Or where are my keys? I put on my slippers. I walk down the hall. The house is completely silent, except for the floorboards settling. It is a beautiful sound, the sound of a sanctuary. I make my tea. I sit right here, in this exact spot where the morning sun hits the rug. The warmth creeps up my legs. I watch the yellow finches fight over the seeds at the bird feeder. I can sit here for 3 hours, reading a book, watching the light change on the wall, thinking my own thoughts from start to finish without a single interruption. It is absolute, unadulterated heaven. People think solitude is a cage. They think it's a punishment for outliving your usefulness. They are so wrong. Solitude is the ultimate liberty. It is the freedom to drop the mask, to take off that heavy, exhausting costume I wore for decades, the costume of the hostess, the social butterfly, the good wife. When you are truly alone, you never have to be right. You never have to compromise. You never have to explain yourself. I look around this living room now. Everything in it is exactly where I want it. The books are stacked my way. The thermostat is set to my comfort. The air is still. I have nothing to prove to anyone anymore. I am not lonely. I am full. I am so completely full of peace that sometimes it makes me want to weep. I traded the applause of the crowd for the purr of a cat, and I won. And the tea in this cup is completely cold now. The afternoon light is fading. I am 91 years old. I don't have much sand left in the hourglass, but you are watching this, which means you still have time. I need you to hear this truth. Proximity is not connection. You can be suffocated by loneliness in a room of 100 people. If you are wired for quiet, stop apologizing for it. You are not broken. You don't need to be fixed with more noise. But to survive the silence, you need to learn 5 things. First, learn the difference between being alone and being lonely. Second, build a daily routine that gives your day shape. Third, find something small that needs you, a cat, a garden. Fourth, be brutally picky about who gets your energy. And most importantly, learn to like yourself, because at the very end, you are stuck with your own company. I cannot get those noisy years back, but I can help you save yours. Share this with someone you love, someone who needs permission to just be quiet. Go find your peace. I know you are exhausted. I see how hard you are trying to keep up. You feel that heavy, sinking guilt every time you want to say no to an invitation, every time you just want to close the door while the rest of the world is spinning so fast. You think you are missing out on life. But look at me. At 91, the shadows are very long, and from where I am sitting, I can see how much of our lives is just noise. We spend decades draining ourselves, performing, trying to prove we exist to other people. But the end of life is a great filter. Death does not care how many dinner parties you hosted or how full your contact list was. It strips away the small talk. It burns away the polite obligations. When the noise finally stops, what remains? Just the peace you made with your own soul. The brutal truth is that we run from silence because we are terrified of who we are when no one is watching. But you have nothing to fear. The most sacred relationship you will ever have is the one you have with the quiet. So, tonight, do a favor for an old woman who doesn't have much time left. Cancel one plan that you only made out of guilt. Turn off your phone. Sit in a room by yourself for just 10 minutes. Don't read. Don't put on music. Just listen to the settling of your own house. Breathe. Learn to befriend the stillness, because in the end, the quiet isn't coming for you. It's waiting to hold you. But to survive the silence, You need to learn 5 things. First, learn the difference between being alone and being lonely. Second, build a daily routine that gives your day shape. Third, find something small that needs you, a cat, a garden. Fourth, be brutally picky about who gets your energy. And most importantly, learn to like yourself, because at the very end, you are stuck with your own company. I cannot get those noisy years back, but I can help you save yours. Share this with someone you love, someone who needs permission to just be quiet. Go find your peace.